Welcome to another episode of the Dear Mum podcast. I am absolutely thrilled to be talking with our next guest. You'll know him. His name's Richard Wilkins. Hello.
G'day, Sam. How are you, mate? It's good to see
Mate.
you. Your lighting's better than mine. That's what I'm worried about.
You know what? I think yours is way better than mine. So we're in the same boat here.
I'm a lot older than you. I need all the help I can get.
Tell me, where am I? Where are you? Where am I? What am I looking at?
Well, this is you're at home. The older I get, the less I like leaving my home. So whenever I get the chance to do anything, I do it from here. And this is my bar area.
Can you explain the stuff on the walls? I'm just fascinated. I'm fascinated.
Well, Channel 9's moved recently from the old headquarters that a lot of people in the business would have been to in Willoughby. It was kind of an establishment. I had a beautiful office. Well, it wasn't that beautiful, but it was full of stuff. So when we moved from there to North Sydney, to the high tech, we're all sharing hot desks and things. I had to put this stuff somewhere. So, there are a few things here that have been around for a long time, and people seem to enjoy looking at them, and it makes me feel even more at home. I'm surrounded by memories of some good time. Well, all good times, actually. And people love it here, and I love it here.
What's the I suppose on the wall behind you, what's the thing that you'd grab if there was a fire and you could only grab one thing off the wall?
Well, obviously it'd be me, presenting Milli Vanilli with their gold records.
Blame it on the rain.
That's it. Won't even go back up. See, it's held up. I don't know, mate. I wouldn't grab any of this stuff. I'd grab my photo albums and make sure everybody who was here was safe. This stuff is lovely. They're lovely mementos and reminders. But there are only photos on the wall.
Tragedy for me to see the dream is over, and I never will forget the day we met. Girl, I'm gonna miss you.
2 minutes deep into this thing, and you'd be singing.
So, how long have you been in that house, Richard?
I bought this house 17 years ago. It was I just come out of a complicated relationship, and my accountant said to me, go and buy a place for $2 million where your kids are welcome and you can do some improvements. So I found this funny little place at the end of a cul-de-sac, which wasn't much chop. So I only had a few $100,000. So I went heavily into debt. But I found a place that I've improved about 3 or 4 times over the years. And I've poured a lot of love and energy into this place, and my kids love it, and they're going to have to take me out of here in a box because I just love it, And I've had a few offers on the house because it's lovely, but I thought, well, where would I live? Where would home be if I moved out of here? And just yesterday we had family all around, granddaughters splashing in the pool, and it's designed for me and my world and my family, and that's it.
A lot of people don't. You're in an enviable position. I personally, I'm still renting I rent this little fibro shack that I'm in. I mean, as you can see, it's home, and I rent a little shack off these farmers. But I'm terrified of when they decide to sell. I don't have that security, and it's because I've mismanaged my life. Basically, I don't. I probably, if I had have been more prudent and a little cleverer, I'd perhaps be in the same position. I'm just interested because it must provide you a great deal of comfort to have a place and to know that you found your place and that's where you want to be, and you don't ever want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, but Sam, I'm a lot older than you. I've been around the block many more times. There's a great saying that I used to adhere to. 80% of my money I've spent on wine, women, and song. The rest I just frittered away. Who
said that?
I don't know. I'll claim it. Oscar Wilde or Shane Warne or some wise. But you work hard. I've worked bloody hard for a lot of years, and I've always had a good job. My kids have gone through good schools, and I've been married a couple of times, and everybody's ended up with a good house. And it's kind of dumb luck that I'm okay now. The house is paid for, and I'm enjoying life.
The fruits of your labour.
Yeah, but I can't afford to stop working.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I don't want to anyway. So. So it's not, it's nice. I would rather be in this. I'd rather be at this stage in my life at this age. That sounds weird, but the pandemic and all that has, I traveled for years. I spent bloody 25, 30 years running to airports, running through airports, getting on and off planes. So this whole thing was quite the reality check when I actually got the thing. But I haven't minded staying at home and being forced to stay home. And frankly, I really enjoy staying home.
Do you find, I found exactly the same thing. I live a touring life with my fundraising duties. I've done 1,100 towns in the last 7.5 years. It's not dissimilar to your life, just on the road the whole time. And then I was worried when I stopped. Did you find out that you were who you thought you were? You must have if you had fun.
Well, I still don't really know who I am. I was just thinking about it before. I came to Australia in 1980 with my little rock and roll band, and wanted to take the world by storm. Split Ends and Dragon and My Sex had done it. How hard could it be? And that all sort of turned to shit relatively quickly. So I released a few records and had some good times. But I was fortunate when the right job for me came along at the right time, and that was the MTV gig. When you're too young to even remember that, but when Channel 9 decided to do a show called MTV, the first international territory, to get the MTV rights, which was this new thing, this new program, this new channel that was taking the world, changing the music business. And I was lucky enough to get the gig, and I believe I was the right guy for the job. And it was certainly the right job for me. And that gave me and I realized that television was something that I loved. And I figured, that's 1987. I want my MTV. And I figured there and then that if I worked hard, that television could be the foundation of a long career. My dad worked for BP, a petrol company, for like 30 or 40 years or something. And he always said to me, just find a job, everything in moderation, Rich. Find something that you love doing and just do it, and, everything else will take care of itself. So, the kids these days change jobs every bloody 2 years and go from this to that. I was sort of brought up with that ethos. And my kids are totally different to me. But that's what I was brought up on. And that's the way I kind of lived my life.
Are there less people around? I remember when I was working in TV for the ABC, and the ABC made a few cuts, and I was walking through entire offices that were empty. I suppose everybody, they've moved to the new office, but I'm keen to know how it's changed from your perspective, because when we were kind of first getting at it, there were much more people around, and it just seems to have thinned out a lot. Do you reckon?
It's just changed, and the whole digitization of the industry. Because when I started, it was all on videotape and splicing and sticky tape, putting things together. But these days, I love the cut and thrust of live television, when you can get in there and you can write your own script, or someone's popped in a script for you, and you can fix that up and blah, 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 save, boom, there it is. And you're on air, because the directors need to know what you're going to say. You can ad-lib around it, but, it's so professional these days. And I love live television. You're a genius at what you do. I aim to be a good live television presenter, which is I couldn't stand what you do, sitting around all day waiting for light.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
Okay, try that one again. Take 34. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it does my head in, Richard, and I think live TV is much more exciting. I've only done live TV once, and it was on the show your boy Christian was on, but it was the season before the one that he famously came second in. And I remember saying to them, "So if I stuff up my dance, we can do it again, right?" And they're like, "No, it's live." And I said, "No, it's not. Don't be silly. How many turns do I get?" And they said, "Sam, in the history of this show, we have never repeated a dance." And that's when it kind of sunk home to me that it was live. And every Monday night for 10 weeks, I had to deal with what you've had to deal with very commonly over the time. And whilst I loved it, I don't think there's anything more terrifying as well. It almost makes repeating something 35 times seem palatable, you know?
I sort of envy people like you and Christian, although he did, I was so proud of him. But, my friends, I remember going into the studio back in the days, and In Excess would be recording a song, or John Stevens, one of my great friends, would bring, "Diggy, mate, come up. I used to live in the city, and they were recording at Rhinoceros Studio. Mate, we've just recorded the song. We think it's good." So I said, "Mate, what's it called?" He said, "It's Touch. So the one we played you the demo. Reach out and touch it. We've just finished recording it. We think I'd love you to hear it." It's like, "Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes." Run up the road and sit and watching these, and there was the loudest thing I think I've ever heard. Can you imagine that? The song. I mean, Jeepers creepers. And sitting there and watching them, and let's just put the drums up and let's lose that, and what about a bit more of this, and watching people just take something and craft it and polish it and make it shine. And same with what you do, but what we do is a bit sort of in contrast, rough and ready, but it has its own challenges and its own rewards, and it is what it is. And when it's 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or well, thanks a lot. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Sorry about that.
How much do you worry, like with the Weekend Today show as an example, how much do you worry about your position? Because I can only speak for myself, but you're in that world where the ratings, ratings are so crucial. Do you find that you just relax about it now because you have trust that things are going well, or do you still find yourself searching for ratings reports and finding out whether you've still got a job?
Well, the position I worry most about is when I sit back on that couch and wonder whether should I do the jacket up or not? Whatever. Look, these days. It's like in the early days when I got into the business, bands would sign to a record label for a 3-album deal, and you do your first album and, they'd see how it went and, try a few things. The second album, it'd be hopefully you might have a half a hit or two. And the third album is when everybody got paid. These days with a recording artist, if the first single's not a hit, sorry, mate. It was really fun working with you, but it's just not going to stick.
That's brutal.
It is, and it's I've been working at Channel 9 since 1987, so I've had a pretty good run. I've got to say, 30 something.
Well, that's actually 35, coming up to 35.
33 and a third. Yeah, I always, in some ways, sort of figured that I was getting danger money from day one, and you're always waiting for someone to come on, mate. Come on.
Yeah, right.
How long do you think we're going to get away with this? But I've really worked hard. I have worked hard, and I haven't gone out of my way to burn any bridges.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. How much of it comes down to sheer professionalism and respect for the position that you have?
I'll always hold my ground, but I think nothing lasts forever. But I think I've just really loved the work. Our show. Touch Stainless Steel is going some wood as well. Is going really well, and I love what we do. Entertainment is obviously my sort of forehand, but I'm fiercely interested in politics and economics and sport and so many other facets of life. And I'm such an inquisitive bastard. I love having the opportunity to talk to epidemiologists about what's going on, why the rollout is so slow, and why don't we just get into stadiums and, you know, do this and do that. You know, I love doing that. And I love talking about Married at First Sight on television. So everybody thinks Bryce is a dickhead, you know. I mean, I love the freedom, and it's, you know, I was just thinking today, I love that time on air, that 3 hours on air when, you know, you've got people in your ear and you've got a co-host beside you and you've got floor manager and stuff. It's very different now, but, you know, normally you've got people around you, and it's even whatever's going on in the world. If you've got, you know, relationship problems, or the kids are doing something tough, or you've got money problems or whatever, that time is sacrosanct, and it's and you're just in a different headspace. I was thinking about it today. I guess I've thought about a few things knowing I was going to be talking to you. But one of my favorite quotes is from Keith Ritchie, who's up there somewhere. Should have covered Keith by the door. There he is. But he signed it. He just said easy. Easy. But here's one of my favorite quotes. I said to him once, I was doing an interview with him at the Regent Hotel, it's called something else now, in Sydney, and he was there, and he had, you know, PRs and makeup and security and there must have been 30, 40 people around him, you know. And I remember sitting there saying to him halfway through the interview, mate, you win the Posse Award for the day. How do you put up with everybody wanting a little piece of you? You know, everybody wants this, and they want you for this, and your wife and kids, da 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 da. And he said, oh man, I just live for that 2.5 hours on stage. It's the only time I get any peace and quiet.
Right, exactly.
And you think
of the idea of that being peace and quiet.
120 decibels, you know, it's the only time it gets any peace and quiet, which I love, you know. So the actually being on air is an absolute adrenaline rush.
Are you naturally curious? Because you were talking about being inquisitive, and you've touched on something that I'm really, really interested in. You know, one of my little private mottos is, you know, be kind. Be curious, stay curious, be kind, and that's what I try and live by. Curiosity is so important when it comes to living a fulfilling life. That I find that whenever I'm having any mental health problems, or if I'm not taking care of myself, I've got to say it's kind of been it's been deliberately choosing to be curious about something that's helped me out of my rut. So I use curiosity as a tool, but it doesn't necessarily always come naturally to me. You value being inquisitive because it seems like you're just naturally that way. But have you consciously decided to stay inquisitive? Or, I mean, because we're all inquisitive as children, and it's really that inquisitive nature that's kind of kept you at the top of the game as well. Because if you weren't still interested in the way that you are, then the viewer wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, well, I like asking the questions or reviewing the movie the same way the punter would. But, you know, I'm at my worst when I haven't had enough sleep. And if I've got something big on tomorrow, even though I might go to bed early, I just spend spend several hours, you know, just thinking about the intro, or thinking about the questions, or thinking about stuff, which it always seems to work out, thank God. But, you know, I sort of have little mini anxiety attacks in the middle of the night, and, you know, and you have 2 or 3 days of that on end if there's something big. You know, I've got a couple of big things coming up now, and I'm, you know, Jesus, when am I going to do? You've almost got to. It's like almost studying for HSC, or, you know, a big uni exam or something. You've got to sort of figure out what you've got to do. But yeah, I mean, I am inquisitive, but sometimes at your own peril, I think, because if you didn't care, you wouldn't care, and you'd probably get a good night's sleep and you'd be fine. But I love general knowledge. My mum, which she just knew everything. You know, if something would come, Mum, how do you convert, you know, inches to centimeters? What's the Richard, darling, you should really be. Everybody does that. Just buy a thing in you. You know, I love, because of her, I love watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I'm always sending Eddie texts, you know, at sort of 5:45 in the evening. He says, mate, I recorded that show 2.5 months ago. I can't remember what it was. So I love the way you give the extra information there. You know, it's great. And I just fast forward through the whole thing. But I love that sort of general knowledge and that information. And I'm curious because you learn stuff, you know. But, you know, I'm inquisitive, and I think, yeah, I think I hear what you say. We all need to learn little tricks to pull us out of our, you know, malaise and things. And we need to lean on the people around us, I think, to, you know, when you need to be free enough to say, hey, I'm in a bit of a funk today, and I just need to spend a bit of time on my own. Or
my key word is flat. I just say, oh, sorry, I'm just feeling a bit flat today, and that kind of just explains that my usual verve isn't on the menu. Hey, speaking of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh wow, $64,000.
Me and my sister won $64,000 for our charity on it the other week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a significant amount of money. Do you know the story behind that?
Behind this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went on
behind the 64.
Yeah, we got the 64,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They had a charity edition.
Yeah, but you know the significance of the number 64.
Oh, because it's the $64,000 question?
Correct.
But can you tell me the history behind that? Because I don't know where that comes from.
Yes.
Because it's a part of it. Yeah, go on.
Because often, you know, when you're doing an interview, so Prime Minister, the $64,000 question,
right.
When are we going to get this rollout right? You know, well, it's quite simple when you say it. It came from a show, an old show in the States, before $1 million was a lot of money. And the first prize was for $2, and they used to double it every time. 2 and 2 are 4, 4 and 4 are 8, 8 and 8 are 16, 16 and 16 are 32, 32 and 32 are 44. So the $32,000 question, if you get this one right, you'll be playing for 64, and they've got it right. We're playing for $64,000. And here's your question. And they won, and if they won that, they won the $64,000 question. And
it's still a part of the vernacular today, isn't it?
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have any other quote? Do you have any other? You've given me a couple of awesome quotes. Are there any other that you have that spring to mind that ring true for you, or that you live by particularly? I mean, I like let your reach exceed your grasp. That's one of my favorites, but I'm a bit of a mantra freak. So I suppose I'm constantly on the lookout for extra mantras. I don't know what that says about me. It's just something shallow, probably.
I was thinking, we were talking to someone on the show the other day about Afterpay, and the Commonwealth Bank are doing this other thing. And I was thinking, my old grandfather, it shows how old I am, but you know, he went to Gallipoli when he was a young man, and he went on to become a very successful dentist. And he said, Richard, I'll give you a tip for life. And this was obviously before someone invented credit cards at American Express. He said, never a lender nor a borrower be. In other words, if you can't afford to buy it, then work hard and save up.
Never a lender or a borrower be. There's something so poetic about that.
Well, it just means, and the other part of that was, you know, a fool and his money are soon parted.
Ah, yes, I've heard that one. Yeah,
which is sort of old school things, but you know, my mum passed on a lot of stuff, and yeah, I grew up with a lot of those things ringing in my ears, and you know, the old work hard, find something you love, and you'll never have to have a job in your life, and all that sort of stuff.
One of my dad's ones was, it wasn't a saying per se, but he'd say, I don't care if you bullshit me, just don't bullshit yourself.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And that led to me kind of going to bed with who I am rather than who I'd prefer to think I am, and I think that's been good for me.
Yeah, well, you're a deep guy, and you know, we all need to draw on those things, because our parents. My dad sometimes said to me, he said, I might not always be right, but I'm never in doubt.
That's an absolute cracker. Hey, tell me about your dad before we talk about your mum.
He was, you know, one of the interesting things about my parents, Dad was such a beautiful guy. My mum came from a sort of a well-to-do family. The Gallipoli guy, dentist guy, and Dad came from a working class family, you know, put his age up to go to the war and all that, Second World War. And he was just a lovely, he was one of the 4 guys that set up BP, the British Petroleum, the petrol company in New Zealand. He went round and bought all the land and things. And I don't think he ever made a huge amount of money, but he had a job that he loved and he was committed to it. The sad thing was when he left BP, he put some money with the mayor of Tauranga, this beautiful little city in the Bay of Islands where they lived, into kiwi fruit farms, which had been the big boom thing. And they jumped in too late, and they had a couple of bad seasons, and it really screwed up his retirement plans, I think. But I mean, not that he never discussed that with me. It's just stuff I picked up. But he, you know, I used to ask him things about personal stuff, and he was never really very forthcoming. Not that that's a complaint, because I can't imagine any more loving, doting parents. I was brought up.
It's more a generational thing, right?
I was brought up to think I was the most normal person on the planet, you know. And I never saw my parents have an argument. Never, ever, ever.
Fantastic.
But I never saw them really have a cuddle either, you know.
Right.
Dad always used to wear a tie. He always used to call Mum's father Sir. I still call people Sir and Ma'am, and you know, it was very old school, very straight, and that was that. And I guess our generation, my generation in the '60s, my mum once said to me, "I'm glad your grandfather's still not around to see that hair of yours, Richard." You know, I'm sure she'd. Sorry, no, I'm sure she'd hate me saying that, but you know, it was that kind of thing. You know, the '60s changed a lot. You were still a wink in your old man's eye.
Not many, you know, I'm not sure how many people know about the fact that you're a muso before you're a showbiz reporter. And I'm not sure how many people know that you're from New Zealand. And I'm not sure how many people know that you play it. Look, I'd never trust what I read because it could be wrong. So I'll just double check. Did you play classical violin when you were a kid?
Yeah, I started learning violin when I was 7. I was told, you know, you've got to learn a musical instrument. You know, duh. So I actually wish in hindsight I'd learned the piano. I fooled around on the piano a little bit. I'm not very good. I used to write songs on it. Stuff. But yeah, so I started playing the violin. I don't know how my parents did it, because the violin is one of those instruments, a bit like the bagpipes. You know, when people are learning to play it, it's just a horror show for everybody in the house and the neighbours, at least 2 or 3 houses down, I would have thought. But I used to go off to a nun. I'm not Catholic, but the Catholic nun used to teach me, and I used to have to do an hour's practice every day before I was allowed to go outside. My parents were pretty strict. I did an hour's practice every day and did very well, and became a very, you know, well, successful classical violinist. And at the age of 12, I got a scholarship to go to this Toffee senior school in New Zealand, and I was the first violinist in the orchestra and the soloist, and I used to sing in church choir. So music was in my blood right from, but it was mainly, I don't know if there was a bit of talent there maybe, but it was also being told, you know, Richard, no, you can't do this till you finish practicing. It was like 5 minutes to go, and you know, I'd be running up and down the fretboard, fingerboard up, you know.
Do you love talking to musos more than, I mean, because actors, we know what they're like, and they're in their own bubble often. I mean, have you found, I don't want to generalize, because of course there are lovely actors and horrible musicians, but you have probably interviewed enough of both to get a good sample size. I mean, if I was in your job, I'd much prefer interviewing the bands or the musos.
Well, I think so. It is a generalization, and there are some lovely actors, and you know, Sam Neill and Brian Brown and are, you know, some beautiful people who I love. The thing with actors is they spend most of their lives, you know, reading other people's words, you know, pretending to be somebody else. And most of the times that someone like me gets to interview them is when they do these little, you know, 5-minute junkets and things, and it's all so prepped, and you know, what was your motivation for the role, and what drew you to the part, and what was it like working with, blah, 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 blah. And it's all so sort of scripted. But the thing I love about musicians, pick a name, any name, from a Neil Finn to a Bruce Springsteen to Katy Perry to Taylor Swift, these people actually, 1 minute there was nothing there, and then an hour later there's a song that the whole world is singing along to, and I think to sit, I'm fascinated by that whole thing. And I love hearing how people come up with the songs and how do they get it from there to there to there. So I love, if I had to generalize, which I think I'd rather talk to singer-songwriters than actors.
As would I. And I agree with you. Actors are interpretive. They're interpreting someone else's kind of art. Musicians are creating their own. They're much more truly creative on the creative pyramid. That's for sure. Most people would ask you, who's your favorite interview? I'm more interested in, and this isn't kind of a name dropping exercise. Which person or band or musician did you learn the most from?
Well, not necessarily in terms of what I took on for myself, but I mean, I mentioned the Bruce Springsteen thing. I flew to New York to interview Bruce Springsteen backstage at the Jimmy Fallon show, and and the longer you have to travel for an interview, the more important it becomes, right? If he was coming around here for a 10-minute chat, be no big deal. But my producer had set up 7 cameras, and his manager John Landau came in, and Bruce, this is Richard. And Bruce said, "Okay, so we got 20 minutes, right?" And John said, "That's right, Bruce." And I said, "John, can I just talk to you for 1 sec?" And I said, "Mate, we've come, I'm doing this for 3 different programs, and we've been promised, 40 minutes at least." And he said, "Oh man, you take as long as you like. We tell Bruce everything's 20 minutes, How long to the gig, John? 20 minutes, Bruce." 20 minutes, Bruce. Everything's 20. He said, "You go for your life." But to talk to him about someone who just, came from the sort of the wrong side of the tracks, and just really he wasn't following any track lines. He was just someone like, that's one of the greatest interviews. The first time we went to Europe, we'd never been there, man. We used to see these playing, and wow, there's another one, man. I wonder where that one's going. And we went to Europe, and it was, it was just so European. You know what I mean? Just hearing about the songs and things. You sort of learn a bit about the craft and the psyche and all that. So, but I don't know, talking to Neil Finn, and he picks up a guitar and sort of shows you a few chord progressions and stuff, So I don't know what I think I've learned a few things. I've learned the value of punctuality. I remember flying to the Beverly Hills Hotel once to interview John Bon Jovi, and the interview was at 11 o'clock, let's say. And I got there nice and early at 10:30, and the crew were all set up. And at 10:02, I said, "You guys need to get ready, because John will be here on time." I said, "Yeah, we should be ready in 10 or 15 minutes." I said, "You need to be ready at the top of the hour on the second." And they said, "Well, yeah, it should be right." And I said, "You need to do it like now." And I said, "I've got $50 that says," in fact, I'm going to go 3, 2, and "John, g'day. How are you, man? I love that about you." I said, "We were running 30 seconds late. I was going to tell you to walk around the block." But I love that punctuality thing, because it's respect. I hate it when people just keep you waiting for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4. It's just like, oh, shoot me now. So that, respect, punctuality, professionalism, they're all important qualities, I think, if you want to succeed, not only in our business but in anything.
In life, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. It's other people's time, and your own time is never more important than other people's.
I learned a good trick a few years ago. You'll like this. In America, you go to United Airlines terminal or something, and the flight to Minneapolis, bad example. The flight to New York, that's a bad example. So the flight to Dallas leaves at 10:04. 10:04. Why is it not like 10 or 10:05? I thought that's really good because you're not late for that. So I started saying, when people say, "Can I come into the office and meet, have a quick chat?" I said, "How long do you need?" And they said, "Just 10 minutes." I said, "Okay. Look, I come off there at 9. It'll take me about a minute to get up there. I've got to make a quick phone call. Could we make it 9:03 for the meeting?" And they think you're being a complete idiot. So 9:03. Yeah, I'm off there at 9. 9:03 would be great if you can do that. I swear to God, they'll be there at 9:03 on the 2nd.
That is genius. That is genius.
Where if you say about 9, then you can bank on somewhere between 9:20 and 9:30.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is such a good life hack. I'm going to use that one. So before we start talking about your mum, what's a typical week like for you? And if you want, you can talk about this week as an example. But how does Richard Wilkins go about his weekly life?
I started off this week getting up at 3 mornings at 4 o'clock to go and host the weekend show. We did the Easter Monday show as well. My first official duty this morning was to do a stunt for Fitzy and Whipper with Ben Fordham for the show that Whipper's pitching. Then I was in the office. I'm putting together a prop for a big name interview that I'm doing for a major promoter, and we're working out how it's going to work. We're trying to get a special up, so I've got a few meetings going on, and went up to the Sydney Morning Herald, the Fairfax mob, to talk about doing a feature piece with them, and it's all. And then I had to run my son Christian into the city because he doesn't drive, and that was annoying. And then I'm back here and I'm doing stuff, and this is a weird one, but Universal Music want to re-release some of my old songs from New Zealand, which is just bizarre. So I'm kind of going through that, and I'm trying to wrap my head around that and write some notes and things.
If that happens, can I talk to you again? Can we do another one of these when that happens? Because I definitely could go there.
I said, but no one really knows these songs, but they seem to like the songs, and they said, but we all know they exist, so let's just do it and have some fun. And it's like, as long as it's sort of positioned correctly, then I'll go with the flow. So and then I've got an interview early in the morning, and on we go.
That's a great snapshot. That is a really, really good snapshot of your life. I'm so glad that you're not doing the same thing every day. I'm so glad that you've found something that you love. I'm so glad that you're still doing it. There's people in this industry, and they don't. Some of them don't. They aren't. How do I put this?
I know let me say what I think you want to say.
Yeah.
I spent a few years when I was doing the early morning shift on the Today Show Monday to Friday every day, and I loved it. And, I loved it, except for sometimes in the middle of winter, when the alarm goes at 3:30, oh my God. And you haven't got a big yarn or something, and it's a bit of a drill. But I still love the regularity of it, and I have my routine down pat, and I enjoyed it, getting in there and seeing the guys and the girls in there and getting a coffee at the same time and banging out the script and getting up to date and checking the facts and getting it right and going on air and having that camaraderie with Carl, who's a dear friend, and Lisa and Fordo, and whoever's in there, Georgie. They were great years, and there were a lot of them, and we had a lot of success, and we worked bloody hard. We went on the road and toured the country. I really enjoyed that regularity, and I never saw it as monotony. But now I really enjoy the flexibility of not doing that so much, but I still do it now and then. But doing the weekends and being freed up to do more things. I'm playing a bit more. I'm going to start playing golf again because I used to be half okay at that. I'm getting a dog because now I can't fly anywhere. I'm going to, although I've got some some people want me to do some stuff back in New Zealand now. We can, so there's it's like stuff happens, and I love not being so locked into the Monday to Friday thing.
Yeah.
I'm taking all my kids up to the Gold Coast for 4 days next week. A great expense to the management, but I'm so looking forward to that. My granddaughter and her husband and the two little bubs, and
right,
and my partner and her daughter and Christian, and I'm so looking forward to playing a frisbee on the beach, but just more importantly, all of us hanging together. So I think it's important. What I was going to say, John Stevens said to me recently, and he said, I used to look at the schedule and I go, we got another, and then we've got a flight in Brisbane, and we've got a gig in Darwin and down and da. He said, I will never look at my itinerary anymore and go, just another gig, because now it's a privilege and a thrill to get on stage and sing to like real people. And I feel the same way again. I enjoy, and I really get a buzz and feel honored to be broadcasting to, a million people or whatever it is at any old time. So, sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
No, not at all. Not at all. I suppose what I'm trying to communicate with our villagers watching is that Richard's a very wonderful island to stop on. You've given me the time of day more than some TV types. I've always appreciated your candor, your generosity of spirit. I think you're really genuinely one of the nice guys of the industry, and I just get good vibes off you, dude. And I don't think you can fake. I don't think you can fake that. I think I'd smell something. I'd smell something was awry if that were faked. So I'm either a very poor judge of character and very wrong, or I'm a semi-astute judge of character and you're a good fella.
Well, right back at you.
Thank you. The book that I was kind enough to have Richard contribute to is called Dear Mum. It's an emotional assembly of over 90 letters to mums. You'll be pleased to know that pre-sales were really strong. Both the publisher and Love Your Sister have ordered reprints. It is selling like the proverbial hotcakes. You've written a touching letter. I'm not going to spoil it. Rather, I'd prefer to just ask whether you'd be happy enough to read your letter aloud, Richard.
Yeah. Well, I need to. I didn't memorize it.
No.
It was.
I don't expect you to memorize it. If you could read it aloud, it'd be wonderful.
Excuse me for putting my glasses on.
Not at all.
The bloke's half blind, viewer. Yeah. Well, when you asked me to do this, which we were up in Byron Bay, I was interviewing you for the Eden Show, and you said, "I've got a favour," and you said to me. I don't know anything about your mum, but if you'd like to write a letter to her, and I responded immediately, and you told me a bit about your situation, and I told you a little bit about mine, and I cried a few times when I wrote this, and I read it to, I think, 2 of my kids, and made them cry as well. But anyway, it's what I'm trying to say. It was a significant thing for me to do, and I'm glad that this has helped you in your wonderful endeavours. And I'm humbled and honoured to do it. And I'll read. You said to me, all you got to do is call it Dear Mum, correct?
Yeah. Start with Dear Mum and just fill it out.
All right, here we go. Okay. Dear Mum, shall I go now?
Yep.
Dear Mum, sorry I haven't written to you for a while. I feel a bit bad about that, actually. I remember clearly when we first started writing to each other regularly, every week, actually, when I went to Rathkeil boarding school in Masterton at the age of 12. I used to look forward to the mail arriving in the common room each morning and the prefects handing out the letters in little parcels. As soon as I saw your beautiful handwriting and my name, my heart sang, as I knew I was in for some loving life lessons from you and some difficult long division maths from Dad. I missed you so much back then, almost as much as I miss you now. But at least back in the 60s, I knew I'd be seeing you during the school holidays, or on the next exeat weekend. Now, all I have are my memories, the photos, and your letters. I kept every one of them, as you did mine. I've put them all together. Mum, I think of you every day, especially today, your birthday. You would have been 96 today. Happy birthday. There are so many wonderful things I would have loved to have shared with you over the past 21 years. I know you weren't exactly thrilled when I decided to move to another country, but you always enjoyed coming to Sydney for another adventure, and I always loved going home to see you and Dad. What a night it was when we attended the event at Circular Quay when the winner is Sydney was announced. You said as we walked past the Opera House with a million others from the overseas passenger terminal, why would you want to leave? Why would you want to live anywhere else, Rich? This is the place for you. I miss your visits. I would have loved you to have been there when I was awarded the Order of Australia. The governor said some really nice things about me. I thought of you throughout the entire ceremony. Mum, you'd be so proud of the family you created. Pip and her balding hubby, Murray, are fantastic, and their 3 beautiful daughters are all safe, well married, and producing magnificent offspring with enthusiasm. My strongest memory of you and Adam, well, apart from the day I told you and Dad that I was going to be a father and get married at the age of 18, was when you and I went to Wanganui for his 21st birthday back in 1994. You'll be happy to know he still has the cleanest and tidiest bedroom in the whole of the North Island and is in rude health. Performs the haka at least a dozen times a day and still has the rug you gave him on his bedroom floor. I don't see him enough. It's hard at the moment. I need to fix that when I can. Becky continues to do everything perfectly, as well as you two sharing initials and a second name, Frances. There's a lot of you in her. She's grown into a superb woman, is having a brilliant career, and she and James are expecting a little sister for Bella early next year. I'm pushing for them to call her Romola, but don't hold your breath for that. Oops, too soon. Nick is awesome. He's also excelling in his career, making TV show that shows the whole country watches. He continues his uncanny knack of being able to fix anything and assemble stuff with a sixth sense. He's such a solid, strong, decent person. Reminds me so much of your hubby, my dad. People always say, if you're putting a team together, Nick is always everyone's first pick. Christian, well, you only met him briefly when he was little. You made each other giggle. He's grown into a fine young man blessed with charm, wit, talent, and personality plus. Like all your grandchildren, he has a deep intellect and a passion to do things his way. You did that when you went to university in your youth. He chose not to do that and is sailing uncharted waters, making his unique mark and setting the stage for a colourful life. Estella, well, you didn't see her coming. She turned 16 last month and, like you, adores horses. They're pretty much her life. She rides every week, and like you did, she goes to a great boarding school where she's loved and nurtured. She also, like all my beautiful children, bears the RFW signature trademark, the hands you inherited from Papa, the chunky sausage fingers, etc. You know the ones. Her mum, who boasts magnificent seamstress's fingers, took a while to get used to that. Ah, all good now. You'd adore each one of them as they would you. Mum, not a day goes by when I don't think of you, and I often quote you. As my mum would say, there are 2 ways to do anything, the easy way and the right way. Or if you're going somewhere, take something. And my personal favorite, if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. I'm glad I was prompted to write this letter to you by my friend Samuel Johnson. He's a great guy, and you, by any standards, were a great mum. I know everyone adores their mothers, and as indeed they should. But I know for a fact that I had one for the ages. Miss you, Rich. P.S. I put in my will that half my ashes be scattered at Balmoral Beach, followed by a big party, and that the other half join you and Dad on that beautiful sunny hillside in Cadicat. Kiss. That's it.
That's beautiful.
So there you go.
Thank you, Richard.
Oh, thank you, mate. I meant every word of that. Yeah, it's strangely moving. She died 21 bloody years ago.
I'd encourage anyone listening or watching to write a letter to their mum, whether she be with us or past. I hope that, like me and like with Richard, you'll find it a really cathartic and valuable experience. Richard,
Yeah, hear to that.
thank you seems a small word. I'd love to play golf with you when I'm next in New South Wales. I'm a golfer.
Yeah, no, you're much better than me.
I'm a hack. Don't worry, I'm a hack.
What's your handicap?
Oh, about 25.
Yeah, no. Guy Sebastian keeps asking me out, and I'm saying no, he plays off a 4 or something stupid.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, maybe we should have a few practice games first. Thank you very much for your time, Richard.
No problems, man. Stay well, and yeah, write to your mum, like Sam said. It's hard but wonderful, and
it is indeed, and I'm hoping that you'll let me have another chat to you again soon.
Yeah, we'll talk about the album.
Thanks, Richard.
See you, mate.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.